For our first Tide Talk of the year, we have Flinn, a director and product manager for Netflix.
Hey everyone, I'm Sean. As mentioned, I am a director of product management at Netflix. I've worked in the video game industry now for almost a quarter century. So yes, I'm super old. And like I said, I currently work for Netflix and I'm helping them build their games platform. I know what some of you are thinking, and yes, it is true that we started offering mobile games at Netflix to our subscribers almost exactly 3 years ago. We've currently got over 100 games that our members can play. A little bit about me. How did I get here? So at a high level, this is what my career looks like. I started, in college. I got a liberal arts education. I don't have a graduate degree, so I've got a BA. I don't have a master's degree or a PhD or anything like that. And most of what I learned about my job, I actually learned by doing at some of these other companies, and I've been able to do it at some of the most successful companies in video games and entertainment. My first real job was at a company called GameSpy, which was a gaming startup here in Orange County that was bought by IGN. I then worked at Blizzard Entertainment for almost 10 years, working on the Battle.net platform that helps people play Blizzard games like Overwatch and World of Warcraft online with each other. And then I've been at Netflix now for about 3 years. So I am a product manager, but what is product management? I don't think you get exposed to a lot of what that job is, probably at this level in school. So let's start by defining what a product is, first of all. So we as product managers define a product as pretty simply anything you can run a business on. Another way to define it would be a solution to someone's problem. And it can be tangible, like a physical thing, like a phone, or it can be intangible, like software or an app or a service that somebody offers. And it can be really simple, or it can be really complex. This is a pretty good definition of what a product manager is from one of the schools where you can now learn how to be a product manager. It's literally called the Product School. And you'll notice that this doesn't really tell you a whole lot about what you actually do as a product manager. One of the most interesting things about the job, and also one of the hardest, is that there's just so many ways to do it. So to get good, you have to stay really flexible and just focus on some core principles and skills. Fundamentally, product managers seek to answer a basic set of questions. We're super curious. And in asking them, we're really trying to figure out what thing we can make that solves someone's problem and that we can run our business on. But we ask these questions over and over and over again. Who are our customers? Who are our partners? What do they need? What problems do they have? How might we solve those problems in a way that's good for our business, right? So you're not just trying to solve any problem that anybody has, right? So you're going to focus on what problems we can solve for people that are aligned with your business. And then when you come up with an idea for a solution, why do you think that solution is the right solution? Because there's lots of different solutions you could come up with. And in what order should you build and deliver those solutions? And then once you've delivered them, how are you going to measure the success of that thing that you've made and given to them, and then learn from that to come back and improve your product over time? Product managers ultimately love problems. We choose to work usually by the types of problems the company is solving, or we even create businesses to solve problems that we're obsessed with. Netflix is obsessed with entertaining people all over the world, and all they do is focus all day, every day on how to better entertain people who live everywhere. Solutions are by and large temporary. You can always come up with a better solution to someone's problem, but problems endure. So how do we go about answering all those questions? Well, that's where we start to actually do the job of product management. We spend a lot of time talking to customers and to our partners internally about what their needs are, what their goals are, what their problems are, and how we can go about collaborating on solutions. We conduct a lot of research, and we review a lot of data about things that are already out there in the market. We evaluate competitors and existing solutions to see if there's an opportunity for us to do something new or better. We talk to our partners internally, like engineers or designers, writers, analysts, etc., to start devising solutions to the problems. We'll make a roadmap of the things we want to build, so that's what we're going to build and when we're going to deliver it over time. We'll write really specific guidelines on what we want the product to look like and how it's going to solve the problems. And then we'll define how we want to measure success for this stuff. Here are things that I currently do and that Netflix PMs usually do at each stage in that life cycle. And it's important to remember that the cycle always repeats because, as we mentioned, at the center sits the problem. always asking us to solve it better. Here is a list of product manager skills. Take a look at that for a minute. All of these are really important, but only a few of them get taught directly in any school. Analysis, for example, gets taught directly. Like if you go to business school or if you end up studying something like statistics, most of what you're going to do is learn how to analyze stuff. But most of these skills you learn indirectly in the course of studying other things like science. So example, humility and curiosity. Like you're not taking a class in humility or curiosity in school at any point, right? But they're both part of the scientific method. So when you learn to come up with a hypothesis and test it and analyze the results and report findings that may or may not actually confirm your hypothesis, you're practicing and developing humility. It's not about whether or not you were correct. It's about the pursuit of knowledge that you must admit you don't yet have. Are you going to use your knowledge of the states of matter in your job someday? Maybe, right? If you become a geologist, right, or a physicist or something, perhaps, but probably not. But if you're a product manager, you are 100% going to use the scientific method and demonstrate curiosity and humility in the pursuit of solutions to people's problems. When I took the job, I took it because of my first conversation with my new boss. He said, we know Netflix needs to do games to continue to be successful and grow as a company, but we don't know what success in games looks like yet. So again, they were humble and curious. That was appealing to me. And our job was to go find that answer. And my specific assignment was to figure out what game developers, the people who actually make games, needed from us that they'd expect from any games platform, and also which of those things would help make Netflix a really attractive place for people to come play games. So who are our customers? So we operate in what's called a two-sided market, meaning we serve both the people who make stuff on one side and the people who consume or use that stuff on the other side. And our solutions need to solve problems for both of those sides. They can't just be one-sided or the other. And in my part of the business, we don't make the games. We just make the tools for the developers to make things that entertain the members. I also didn't have to start totally from scratch in terms of figuring out people's needs because lots of people have done that already, right? Games platforms have been around for decades. In fact, I've worked on almost all of them in some way and even helped build a couple. And my partners and I were able to look at those and generate a basic picture of what the tools and services and features are that all of them tend to offer, both developers and players. And then I spent a lot of time writing up documents and making presentations to explain game platforms and what value they serve to the people at Netflix. Because again, Netflix hadn't done games before. I was one of the first, 10 or 15 people they hired to work on this stuff. Their experience was all building a streaming video platform. They'd never worked in games before, so I had to explain this to Netflix a bunch. You can't get away from talking to your customers, so I did. You got to get out and get to know them. I partnered with our research team at Netflix to set up interviews with Netflix members to ask them what they expected and wanted from us to help make playing games possible and more fun. And the researchers then compiled all their findings into a really detailed report that gave us a really clear picture of what mattered to our potential players and why. And we also partnered with a team of game producers to identify a handful of game developers to talk to about their needs. So we surveyed them about the tools and services they needed and about how important they believed those things would be to them. That helped us narrow down the types of problems our developers actually needed us to solve and in what numbers and roughly on what timeline. And then we had a driving hypothesis, right? which was that we would learn fastest by actually building some things and giving them to our customers rather than working for years to build some perfect ideal solution without any opportunities to get feedback or learn along the way. So we didn't have any success metrics yet. We were in the earliest stages of figuring out what to do. And we're going to build something, but not too much, just enough to get a reaction from our customers and learn what to do next. And we didn't need to worry about making things perfect yet, just had to function. Some of it we knew was going to be totally wrong. That's good, right? We learn quickly what doesn't work and what not to spend any more time or money on when things don't go according to plan. This is often called a minimum viable product approach in the world of product management. And it's basically like a learning engine. You build something and its primary point is to help you learn what to do next. So part of my job was to decide how much of that stuff was enough, both in terms of like the number of things we were going to offer and then how much of each thing to make. Then we had to figure out in what order we should build those things, right? So what's the sequence? Our research generated the list of things to build, and then we had to figure out roughly how valuable each of those things were to our customers. But you can't necessarily build things in order of perceived value. So somebody may tell you something is super important, but you can't deliver it until you've delivered something that it will rely upon first. So for example, everybody familiar with like a high scoreboard or a leaderboard in games, right? Where you're seeing how you rank against other people. Well, you can't build a leaderboard or a high scoreboard if you don't first have a way for people to input a nickname, right? So you have to have a nickname system first to identify yourself to other people before you can have something that identifies people to one another, like a leaderboard. So we knew that before we built leaderboards, we had to build nicknames. Even if customers were saying leaderboards are the most important thing you can give me for my game, it can't come first. So that gave us some idea of how to sequence things. And it also meant that we could build all of the things that didn't require stuff like nicknames first, so we could get moving faster, rather than having to wait for that system to come online. A big part of a product manager's job is also deciding what not to do. And some would say this is actually our most important job, because you always end up with way more ideas for things to do than you have time or people or money to execute. So I also had to figure out what we didn't need and shouldn't build yet. Some things were just too complex to try right away, given our level of skill, right, and expertise. And other things we didn't need to build them at all, because there's plenty of good solutions in the market, and really low likelihood that we were going to do something better than what was already out there. So there wasn't a big opportunity for us to make a difference. We really want to talk about how the stuff that you guys are learning here applies to everything that we're doing in games. Innovation. Every time you solve a new problem or solve an existing problem better, you're innovating. But I want to call something out that I think it's really important to focus on the fact that innovation is most valuable when you actually are solving a problem. That novelty, like just doing something, innovation for the sake of innovation, without a customer benefit is pretty pointless, right? It doesn't generate any value for anyone. When we think about innovation on something like this, I'm asking, how do other game platforms handle achievements? What's good, what's bad? Do game developers have any pain points with those existing solutions? What do players value most that we can't miss, and what could we live without, right? So looking for the opportunities to solve the problem better. Design. We work with a whole bunch of different types of designers to craft how a solution is going to work, right? And designers come in all sorts of different shapes and sizes. There's some that focus on user experience design, so the step-by-step flow through a feature. Some focus on graphic design, how it's going to look. Others are content designers who figure out what the words are that we need to put on the product to describe it best. Right? So the product manager is the champion of the customer and the value of the solution to the business. You are constantly seeking ways to run a business on your solution. So with something like achievements, I wanted to know, hey, is this going to make our game platform more appealing to game developers or to Netflix subscribers? Will it make players want to play a game more? If so, how much more? And if a player earns a lot of achievements, are they going to stay subscribed to Netflix longer, right? So that's the stuff that builds the business. Remember when I showed you that nice linear image of how I went to college and then worked at 3 of the biggest, most successful companies in video games and entertainment? Yeah, I didn't plan for any of that. I did not play video games a lot as a kid. They were not my passion. I couldn't have dreamed that I would be doing this because none of it existed yet. So my actual career journey, and I know this is really small, so I'll walk you through it, looked more like this. It started when I was in high school, where in addition to going to school, I started a lawn mowing business on my own, and I was marketing it and going out and earning money that way. And I worked a retail job for a little while at a bookstore, and I was in sports and band and took college-level courses during summer school and like AP classes. And then when I went to college, there was a bunch of stuff I did that wasn't related to college work. I was a radio DJ for 5 years at the campus radio station. I wrote for the college newspaper. And I worked on campus in the development office learning how to raise money to build stuff for the school, which taught me how to work in an office. And then when I graduated, I did not immediately get a job in the video game industry doing amazing stuff with technology and software. I had to become what's called an administrative assistant, like a secretary, answering phones, filing papers, answering emails for people to pay the rent, because I bombed my first few job interviews. So I had to pay the bills. But again, I learned about business and I learned how to work in an office. And there was so much failure. That's another thing that people don't talk about, I don't think enough, is that I never started out good at any of that stuff. Nobody does. The people who excel are the ones who fail but keep going and open themselves up to learning. There was just so much failure, but I learned. And what I learned is that every time you fail, it does create an opportunity for you to learn how to do stuff better. There's lots of lessons there. I still have a lot of anxiety about doing things well. And what I've learned is to try as much as possible convert that anxiety into curiosity, right? So if you can ask for help and admit you're not good at something, you actually become stronger and it becomes easier to stand up when you fall down over time.